Hello and welcome to Garden of Luma, where I provide you tips for growing edibles in hot climates. Hello, Joe here with Garden of Luma. It is late December here in the Phoenix, Arizona area, growing zone 9B. I want to talk a little bit about winter, especially for tropical fruit trees here, or subtropical fruit trees, and just show you guys a little bit about what I'm doing. So this year, so far, I'll admit, I've been pretty lazy when it comes to taking care of my fruit trees and protecting them this winter. Somewhat like the summer months, so if you watch some of those videos where I just did not do any shade protection whatsoever. As your trees get more established, they can handle a little bit more and take a little less babying. With that being said, they are still susceptible to cold damage and can be killed from frost. So that doesn't mean, your trees are old or just totally forget about cold protection whatsoever. For those types of trees, you're still going to have to do some certain things to keep them alive when it gets below freezing. But you'll see that you can get away with some things that you were doing before, like the last couple years when they were younger, I'd be out here with the frost protection pretty much from the start of winter, worried about when it dropped just into the upper 30s, I'd be paranoid about frost or whatever, or that doing damage. Once they get a little more established, you don't have to worry about that as much. So we've been cold here. We've had several cold snaps into the low 30s. Maybe right around freezing, 32, but more like that 34-ish mark a few nights. So nothing that has dipped below freezing really into those upper 20s, like 30 degree where you really have to worry. So with that being said, I haven't really done much of anything to frost protect my trees. I'll show you some of the things I did with my container fruit trees. But other than that, haven't done a whole lot so far. We have had like cold snaps through each month. Through Halloween, we had a couple that caught me off guard and did do some damage to my soursop, some of those more ultra sensitive trees. And then had a couple cold snaps in November, and then through this past week we've been into the mid 30s here. So all right, so let's go check it out in the backyard here. Okay, so here is my in-ground sapodilla here, the Tikal sapodilla, and as you can see, I did get out here and start to put up frost protection here, but didn't really finish the job. And I did this earlier in the week with this sapodilla here, and we had just monster winds come through here, so it's kind of looking a little bit thrashed. And so we've had a lot of issues with wind this year, just really high winds. And that just kind of did a number on some of these frost structures here. And I just didn't get around to finishing the job. You should have some sheets up here to go up top here on those cold nights. But it is up and ready at least for those potential frosty nights that we're probably going to get at some point. So here you go, just putting the 4 stakes in the ground, plastic around it, or you can do frost cloth if that works for you. Making sure that this plastic isn't up against the tree. And then you want to remove the sheeting that you put up here at night during the day to let the airflow come back in here once it warms up during the day. But there you go, that's what I'm doing for my in-ground. I'm only going to do this for the sapodilla. And as you can see, there's the fruit up top there, and that's what I'm trying to hopefully preserve through the winter. So I'm only going to do this for my in-ground sapodilla and then my 3 mangoes in the ground. Other than that, my guavas, not going to do anything for that. My Adamoya, which I'll show you right now. So here's my Adamoya that's in the ground. Not going to frost protect this at all. And this is actually in probably one of the coldest spots in my yard here. It's like right in the center of my yard where all the air kind of settles down to here. So we'll see how it does. I did cold protect this the first couple years. This year, as you can see, it's gotten quite large and bushy and has this tall growth going on way up here. And so it's just gotten too large. I don't even want to deal with frost protecting it, so we'll see what happens. I had a small Barbados cherry in the spot that I didn't protect one year, and the cold did end up killing it off that year. It was still pretty young. So this is a colder spot here. You can see around it some of my deciduous trees that have lost a lot of their leaves. The peach tree is still kind of holding on to some right there, but so it's opening up here, and a lot of the deciduous have dropped leaves around it. So you can see so far, not really any frost damage. Some of those upper leaves might have got a little hit, but overall, I don't really see much frost damage going on this tree. Okay, and here is one of my in-ground guavas. And this tends to, the guava trees tend to show the frost damage pretty quickly, where some trees like mangoes, you may not even know it got hit by frost till a week or two later. But guavas tend to show it pretty quick. Guavas, papayas, I found. And it's still pretty green throughout. Like, they tend to get these darker colored leaves when it gets cold, and I don't see too much of that on here. Maybe just at the very ends of some of the newer growth. But other than that, it's still pretty green. So like I said, we've been cold into the 30s at night, mid-30s, maybe even about down to freezing a couple times, but other than that, hasn't been too extreme so far. So let me show you my container trees real quick. Okay, so show off here my mess of a patio right now. And you can see a lot of my potted tropicals here are under the patio. And this helps because it's got this coverage over top. Keeps it a few degrees warmer under the patio here up close by the house. As well as the cold air tends to be a little bit heavier and settles, so that, you know, protection up top keeps that cold air off the trees a bit. And so this is something I typically do with my container tropicals on those colder nights, is bring them up closer to the house under the patio. And you can see I have several here. I have my Cary mango there, Jamaican cherry, my Silas Wood sapodilla, sugar apple, soursop, my wax jambu, a canistil, so a lot of stuff tucked back in here. My more sensitive tropicals, and you can see the soursop is looking a little beat up there. Kind of neglected this guy a few times on some of the colder snaps that came earlier in the year, but this week I did bring this in the garage, and I just brought it out because we've warmed up a little bit here. But overall, I mean, it's still green, it still has leaves, but it has suffered a bit from the cold, as you can see on some of these leaves here. You know, they tend to brown up and things like that when they get cold damaged like that. Sugar apple as well, I did bring into the garage, but this guy looks really good right now still. Probably could have handled being out under the patio with some of these others, but I did take care of this, bring it in the garage this week. And then back behind it, since my wax jambu is still pretty young and that can is still, and they're both small enough, I just brought those into the house this week on the cold nights. So there you go, there's one thing that I've been doing to protect some of my tropicals through the winter. Alright, so check me out at gardenofluma.com for more tips on gardening and growing fruit trees, especially in hot, dry climates. Thanks for watching.